Hi everyone, good afternoon. Myself DS Roy. I am the account manager for Veeam Software. Thank you for joining the session today. As you are aware, today we're going to talk about a very valid topic that is giving a sleepless nights to a lot of industry experts, a lot of IT experts who all are there on this call. It is about ensuring data security and recovery, a ransomware protection guide, right? Thank you for joining, all of you. Today, the session will be taken over by Pooja. She will take you through the whole offering that Veeam has in terms of the ransomware protection and ensuring your data security. Hope you have an insightful session, and please drop in your questions, whatever you have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devi. Hello, everyone, and a very good afternoon, and welcome to today's session. As Devi rightly said, we are going to talk about the backed up security and the ways in which you can recover your data once it is backed up. A complete protection guide from a ransomware perspective. A brief intro about myself. I am Pooja Vijay Kognule. I am based out of Mumbai region and I am a senior insight system engineer. I have been associated with Veeam from past 3 years and I look after the entire portfolio that Veeam has to offer from a data protection perspective. Also, I look after the entire SAARC SMB business. So just in case if you have got any questions or queries as we proceed ahead with our session today, so by default, all the attendees are on listen only mode. So if you have got any questions or queries, please post them into the questions panel. We will take them up at the end of today's session so that they are all covered. So let's begin. As the limelight of today is basically ransomware, and yes, even if we try to avoid it, we are not able to avoid it. It is a kind of a disaster. I would say it is the main disaster in the infrastructure. Disaster recovery conversations are often difficult to have with the customers, and the threat of ransomware has evolved and become more both dangerous and more expensive. Studies are also showcasing that costs associated with ransomware attacks have doubled since 2020, and also the number of attacks that have happened since 2020 have also increased significantly. When we think about the cost, when we talk about this cost perspective related to the ransomware or this particular kind of a disaster, we have to include everything starting from the downtime, how much how much loss of business, what are the network costs, the people costs associated with this, and on top of that, if you have paid any ransom, that also account or that also amount comes as a part of this. Now, this is where basically you might be wondering how does the ransomware attack work. So, to be very precise, there is no proper method or proper way or a predefined process in which ransomware attack might have happened. Over the last 10 years, the security industry has realized modern ransomware protection requires a layered security defense. While the initial attack vector hasn't changed much, and over 80% of it happening via email and the internet being spammed, we have to accept that some or the other way it might hamper or it might get into the infrastructure. Now, imagine a situation where maybe this diagram, as you are able to see via the email, it has come and or maybe via some malicious link, it has come into your infrastructure, it has remained undetected, and then it started scanning the files and started adding those files to the staging server. It started infecting those particular slides and it started encrypting them such that it becomes in an unreadable format, uneditable format. And then after that, that is where the extortion, that is where the next process happens, where the hackers start asking for the ransom amount for you. This is just one example in which a ransomware attack happen or may happen to your infrastructure, but there can be multiple ways. As the industry is modernizing, there are also modernization in the ransomware attacks that are happening. So there was a small survey that was run by Veeam in 2022 just to see the ransomware trends and how our customers have been affected due to it. And we also tried to capture it in our 2023 data protection report. So we saw that about 80% of our customers have admitted to have experienced, or 83% or 85% of the customers in the IT industry or in the overall industry have experienced ransomware attack at least once in the past year. And the astonishing fact over here is about one third of the companies, that is basically the 33% of the companies, paid the ransom but still were not able to recover that data. Now, this can be a really, really scary situation to be in. So, this is where I would say the company's critical data or the important data is at risk. And having that kind of a solution which gives you a complete protection from a ransomware kind of a disaster is a must. And then you have a diagram in the middle, which is the green one, which is the 19% of the customers, where the companies were able to recover the data without paying the ransom. This is where I would say that our goal should be to be into this particular category. So you should be able to perform a successful backup, store your backup successfully, and just in case of any such kind of disasters, you should be able to perform the restorations 100% without paying any ransom. So we'll be focusing on what can be some of the approaches to go ahead and achieve this kind or be into this particular bracket. We'll be discussing that as we proceed ahead today. You might be wondering why is a ransomware so effective? I have the entire setup in place and maybe I have all those defenses in place. Why is ransomware so successful? The obvious answer is malware is being created and is evolving faster than it can be detected. Anti-malware providers see up to 1 million new pieces of malware per day. Now, this is a really huge number. Even if it were possible to consistently catch 99% of them, they are still missing 10,000 threats each day, which maybe via some way if it penetrated your infrastructure, it starts harming your infrastructure. The other issue is many companies don't take it or don't take the security comprehensively. They are forced to build holes, or maybe knowingly, unknowingly, there are some open ends, and their defense strategies may be just to meet the business requirements, or the network is so complex that there are some loopholes. Based on the last 10 years of attacks, as you can see on the screen, these are the top 7 reasons why the attacks have been successful. So if I take an example of misconfiguration. Maybe you have routers and security devices in your infra, which exist in your infrastructure with the default passwords and configurations. So please try to avoid doing that. Inconsistent policies. Maybe you are migrating from on-premise to cloud and you maybe have the same security uh, strategies that you had on-premise. You are applying the same security strategies to cloud, which may or may not work. You might need additional layer of security when you move to cloud, or need additional, I would say, segmentations if it may required. Maybe lack of segmentation, as we rightly hit on to that particular note. You have a flat network, which is definitely easy to manage, but which allows the malware to spread so easily in the infrastructure and start corrupting your data. Some networks are so complex that true segmentation is impossible, but all or nothing approach kind maybe puts the company at risk. Maybe it is an alert fatigue. Some alert was given, there was some patch, but it was not upgraded, or untested backups. Untested backup is again maybe customers do not follow some of the best practices as suggested by the organization, and when the backups are needed to perform the recovery, your backup file isn't accessible. Maybe lack of testing of those restorations are, or maybe it is too slow, or they are not able to perform the recoveries, leads them to go ahead and pay the ransom in hope of getting the data back. So these are some of the ways in which ransomware is effective, and we have to go ahead and make it as least effective as possible as we proceed ahead. So we'll be discussing about it in a bit more. So there is no surprise when I read out the next statement. Backups are the target number one. So definitely the reasons we saw why backups are successful, or we saw why ransomware is so, I would say, why is the ransomware so effective? How does the ransomware attack be so successful? The ransomware attack, once it happens, it basically also targets your backup. Reason being, it won't allow their coming in for the ransom amount. So let's face the fact, if you can't recover your backed up data, nothing else matters. So that is where we are going to take up why and how you can protect your backed up data. So Veeam has an ultra resilient approach towards this particular topic. So as you can see on the screen, Veeam has an approach of having layers of maybe having total control over the recovery, where you have multiple ways in which you can perform the recovery of your workloads, multiple layers of immutability. We will be discussing about this particular feature or this particular part in a bit more detail as we proceed ahead. Data mobility, helping our customers to have the entire freedom from a backed up data moving perspective, maybe from on-premise to cloud, or cloud to another cloud, or another cloud to on-premise, vice versa. Um, Detect and monitor your data. Basically, it have the complete visibility in your environment and allows you to make sure everything is running absolutely correctly in your infrastructure. And orchestration and automation, yes, we'll be discussing about this topic through how simple it can be automated through Veeam's process as we proceed ahead. Taking hold of the first approach of having the total control over your recovery pointer. Yes, if you are like most of the companies who have hundreds of applications and terabytes of structured and unstructured data that have different SLAs, maybe based on the criticality of the workload. Maybe a ransomware incident hit your infrastructure. The situation can get really, really messy, and it might start encrypting or messing around with your workloads really fast. And being locked into a single proprietary approach without a good visibility into your production setup and going ahead with a proprietary recovery process might not be enough. So that is where most of the vendors in the market provide one to two recovery options, which kind of binds them to a limited proprietary recovery process. And imagine a situation where this I think would be equal to maybe if you have 3 to 5% of the workloads hit by some kind of an issue, and this might work. But imagine a situation where all these hundreds of applications or workloads have been hit by ransomware, 100% and production is encrypted. So that is where having multiple ways, faster restorations, having a very low RTO of less than 5 minutes kind of a recovery kind of helps to bring down your downtime. So Veeam has pioneered the instant VM recovery over the past 13 years. So we had started with performing instant recoveries to the same platform, like from VMware to VMware. Now you can perform instant recoveries across cross platforms. So maybe any image level backup that you have taken via Veeam, be it for a desktop laptop or any cloud instance utilizing Veeam backup for AWS or Veeam backup for Azure or Veeam backup for GCP or any physical server uh, image level backup that you have taken, you can perform instant recovery of these workload to either VMware, Hyper-V or Nutanix and bring down your downtime. So you can reduce your SLAs or you can reduce your RTO to very low. Recovering from the storage snapshots, we have a really good tight integrations with most of the storage vendors in the market. We can do a storage snapshot level backup and also perform the recovery at a storage snapshot level that helps you to perform faster restoration of your workload and recover from replicas also. So that basically This particular tool, if you're aware about Veeam, which is our core product line, Veeam Backup and Replication, where it also helps you to replicate the virtual machines from DC to DR or from primary to secondary. You can also recover from the replicas you have replicated to secondary locations for the VMware and Hyper-V. So that is where Veeam helps you to have the complete control. For example, we have this is really good example and a really huge customer. A healthcare company in North-US identified a ransomware attack which impacted approximately 1,700 virtual machines, and over 600 terabyte of data was affected due to this ransomware attack. Not only they were able to recover from the backups, but they were able to use the immutable storage snapshots, which resulted in having a faster restorations of their workloads, 4x faster restorations of their workloads, and bringing up the workloads back into production in a very less time. So there are definitely some of the good use cases and examples and the customer stories. If you're interested, our sales team can get in touch with you and share those. Talking about the next layer of approach from a ransomware attack perspective, go ahead with a multi-layered immutability. So that is where it might happen that one copy of your backed up data is affected. It might happen that it got deleted and you do not have, or maybe you have just made one copy of your backed up data immutable. What about the other copies of the backed up data? So this is where Veeam comes into picture, where you have end-to-end immutability starting from the first backup repository to the last restore point or the last repository that you want to utilize. You can have a multi-layered approach where maybe you're using a hardened Linux repository, which is the first landing zone for your backed up data. Maybe a secondary copy, you have pushed it out to cloud. So you can make your backups immutable on any S3 compatible object storage, be it on-premise or be it on cloud. Also, you can have it extended to the cold tiers of the cloud, where you maybe have kept the backed up data for a longer term retentions to the cold tiers like S3 Glaciers or Azure Archive tier. You can basically have immutability built up for from start to end, such that just in case if a ransomware attack hits your infrastructure and via the network, even if it tries to reach any of these repositories, your backed up data remains 100% safe and can be restored 100%. So that kind of a multi-layered immutability is must. And Veeam has its complete flexibility when it comes to this kind of an approach. So that about it. Simplicity through the automation. Yes, a really good topic. Reduce the risk through testing and verification. As I mentioned, the worst time to realize your backups um, failed is during the crisis. Sadly, a crisis also seems to be a time when the team realizes there are holes in their recovery plan. Now, imagine a situation: you are an organization which is running thousands and 3,000s of virtual machines. Maybe a Veeam provides uh, and creating a recovery plan. Testing each and every virtual machine individually can be a cumbersome process and a never ending kind of a story. So Veeam provides the ability to create and maintain a comprehensive recovery plan and stress test the plan to give you and your leadership confidence. So our tool basically includes automated testing and recovery for every workload. The ability to stage the workloads prior to the recovery and ensure the data is clean and everything works as expected. So what this particular tool helps you to give is the net results basically help you to reduce risk of all the TR applications by testing them, maximizing the availability, checking if the licenses are updated or not. Maybe, for example, if the VMware licenses are up to date or not, if Veeam licenses are up to date or not, if the virtual machines are connected or not, etc. Uh, Easy patch testing. Maybe you want to perform a patch test, or maybe you have a compliance requirement of having the DR tested every month or every 15 days or every day. You can have that kind of schedule also done. It helps you to save time, automated the documentation process, no touch schedule for DR tests. So definitely you can schedule them as per your company's policy requirements such that doesn't have any manual intervention, or it doesn't have to be done manually, or the reporting doesn't have to be created manually. And it also verifies the applications. And then it helps you to restore with confidence, have prove the DR preparedness just in case of a disaster. You are 100% sure, and it also helps you to avoid the RPO and RPO violations. And with just one single click, you can provide or perform the recovery to the DR locations. So that is where Veeam Recovery Orchestrator comes in with simplicity through automation. Complete data mobility. Yes, this is one of my favorite features, which gives my customer the complete flexibility to go ahead and push their backed up data. So that is where maybe you have taken the backup of a particular workload, or portability of the workloads across one platform to another is what we are talking about over here. So we do not have any change in format when we talk about the Veeam backup solution. So be it Veeam backup and replication that you're using to take the backup of on-premise workloads, maybe you're utilizing Veeam backup for AWS or Veeam backup for Azure, or Veeam backup for GCP. You can have it all managed centrally from the VBR console. The agentless backups can run independently for all the three cloud providers, and then in the backend, they all have a single backup file format .pbb APIB files, which helps you to perform restorations across any platform. So maybe you have taken a backup of VMware workloads on premise. There was a flood or a ransomware attack on premise. You do not have any resources available, but you have a cloud subscription or a cloud account. You can perform direct restoration to Amazon EC2 instance or Azure or GCP, or maybe there was a ransomware attack hit on cloud, and right now you do not know how or where the network or the security got breached. You want to perform the recovery on premise. Very well, then you can perform the recovery to either VMware, Hyper-V, or Nutanix. Or maybe you want to move from one cloud to another. So mobility, when I say mobility of the backed up data, you can also see it as a migration process. So maybe you're migrating from on-premise to cloud, or from one cloud to another. You can take the backup and then perform the recovery of it to maybe, so for example, if taken the backup of an Azure Amazon EC2 instance, you want to recover it to Azure or GCP, you can just go ahead and do. So you can restore. That is where, when we talk about restore anywhere from the backed up data from your data center to cloud, and get your uh, workload up and running in the production, and have a lower RTO from that perspective. Okay, talking about the monitoring, this is again one of the approach or one of the layers which add on to the security part. So if you're aware about being one as a product line, which helps you to go ahead and perform a granular kind of view. So in my opinion, you can never have enough visibility of the production infra. That is why our goal is to help you to know what's going on in your production infra or in your backup infra at any given point in time state. So you can have instant alerting, and if there is something wrong, it can be instantly alerted to you. So it has intelligent monitoring, reporting. There are 150 plus kinds of reports which you can pull out, and it also has intelligent active analysis in the backend, which gives proactive alerts to the defined email IDs. So we'll be discussing about this in a bit more detail as we proceed ahead. First and foremost, please go ahead with the 32110 best practice rules, because if something happens to the primary copy of your backed up data, then it becomes very tricky. Imagine there is no ransomware attack, but the primary copy of the backed up data is hit due to earthquake or due to flooding, everything is gone. That is where a secondary copy of the backed up data is very important. Always maintain 3 copies of your backed up data, two on two different medias. So maybe first you have stored on a block-based storage, secondly you want to push it out to S3 compatible object storage, you can just go ahead and do that. Or maybe you want to push it out to tape. Please choose a different media type. Have a have one copy out of these two off-site, and this off-site copy should be either air-gapped or immutable. And make sure there are zero errors. This basically can be checked after data recoverability and verification of it. This basically can be checked with some of the features available in the Veeam console. Having a secure backup in place definitely is one of the key pointers, and secure backup is always your last line of defense. So as I said, there is a multi-layered approach. So we are going into that approach now. So making your backups immutable, having 3 copies of your backed up data, make all the 3 copies of your backed up data immutable. So just in case if you do not have this kind of a setup as of now, due to some limitation in your infra, there's an option of performing secure restore, which basically utilizes the capability of the underlying antivirus software before performing an instant VM recovery or full VM recovery, which scans the entire backup file before restoring it to the environment, in the production environment, which you have defined a target to perform the recovery. So this helps to check if this particular backup file, if it is hit by malware, if it is hit, then it shouldn't affect the production network where it is restored. So you can apply that kind of rules also, just in case if it is malicious or if it has been attacked. Should it stop the restoration, or it should continue with the restoration process, but it should not connect the virtual machine to the network also. Also, you can verify your backed up data by reliable recovery. So this is where we are talking about the sure backup and sure replica feature functionalities, which runs in an isolated environment as per the schedule that you have defined. So once the normal backups have run, the backups file have landed to the backup repository. This backup file can be pulled out in this isolated environment as per the sure backup uh, sure policy, and then uh, it is pinned up and it checks if the virtual machine is running fine, if the operating system, the applications is running fine on it. It does all the tick mark activities, it does all the tests, and then it gives out a report saying the backups were successful, they have been verified and can be recovered. So this kind of a reliable recovery goes a step ahead as per the CRC check that other vendors in the market just provide you. That is where it goes in a bit more detail from a recovery perspective. So we talked about bits and pieces as we uh, covered in a few moments as previous slides. I have to put this up in a form of maybe a diagram. This is how it would look like. So where maybe if you're talking about a scale out backup repository approach, you have a performance tier. This is the first landing zone. Have a hardened Linux repository. Have the entire transparency. Have space efficiency because you enable the XFS file system onto it, which helps you to save space on the weekly and the monthly folds, and even the yearly folds. That basically helps you to reduce your storage, backup storage consumption at a great extent. And then have immutability from start to finish. Yes, we talked about it a bit while. So where you can have capacity tier. Earlier it was there. It was there only for Amazon S3, but now any S3 compatible object storage you can make. You can have an object lock on top of it and make your backed up data secure even in the capacity tier or even the cold tier of the cloud. As you can see, the archive tier. So maybe you have a really long-term retentions for weekly and monthly. You want to have the optimization on the backup infrastructure cost, you can push them out to the archive tier, also the cold tiers of the clouds also. So that is where you can basically have your kind of an infrastructure to make some reports and alerts in place, to have some reports and alerts in place. We'll be discussing about this as we proceed ahead. What kinds of reports and alerts you can go ahead and define in Veeam, which will help you to automate the reporting from the alarm perspective. Also, you can basically receive these alerts automatically, and once the issue is detected, what action should be taken in the backend, that also can be basically defined. So maybe you can set an alarm of maybe if CPU utilization immediately spikes, or maybe the CPU and core RAM resources suddenly started utilizing more than the usuals, or maybe the backup jobs were running smoothly and the incrementals were of so and so size, and all of a sudden someday the incremental files from MBs move to GB from a backup file perspective. You can put all these kinds of alarms on the Veeam one, and it will basically go ahead and create those activity. It will start tracking it with the analytics in the backend, and then once it is detected, it can go ahead and give the notifications to the defined email IDs. You can also define, if any such situation kind of arises, what actions should be taken so that you do not have manual dependency to go ahead and work on these alerts. You can also define what action should be taken from Veeam's console so that your production infra or your uh, setup doesn't get hampered much with these kinds of attacks. Also, please segregate the duties. Please have multiple roles as per users. Do not have multiple people accessing the backup infrastructure. From the solutions perspective, Veeam has AES-256-bit encryption. Again, go ahead with the multiple layered approach. Not just immutability, also have your backed up data encrypted. So whenever you're creating a backup job, have AES-256-bit encryption on top of it, so that it kind of becomes difficult for the hacker to easily go ahead and affect your data. So that is where the ultra resilient approach comes into picture. So have multi-factor authentication enabled on everything, be it your production virtual machine, even on the backup infrastructure with V12. Now you have multi-factor authentication. So even if some XYZ person has an access to the backup server, they do not have access to the console without the key. So that is where again an additional layer of security. So if you're running on some previous versions like V10 or V11, please upgrade yourself to V12 and utilize this particular feature, which will help you benefit and have a secured approach from a solutions perspective. Going ahead, if I have to summarize these particular pointers, basically, yes, definitely lock down your server access, have MFAs. There is also an auto log off feature that has come up as a part of V12. We will be discussing that in a bit more detail in the V12 key feature functionality slide. Segregate the duties. Not everyone or everything should be accessible to everyone. Create visibility. Uh, have the Veeam one integrated with your VMware Hyper-V workloads, or which will monitor the production setup. It will monitor the hosts. It will see if there is some wasted resources on host, or if there is some abnormal activities, or if there is some alert or warning, or if there is some error. You can also pull out, as I said, there are 150 kinds of reports. You can also pull out 150 plus kinds of reports where maybe an over positioned VM or under positioned VM. Okay, a very good example is basically maybe someone in your infrastructure created a virtual machine for a testing purpose, and they created, they tested, and left the virtual machine as it is. So it might happen that this can be one of the weak areas or the landing zone for your ransomware attacks to land to. Maybe there is a malicious application which got downloaded to one of the virtual machines, and maybe it is not in use, and someone had just created it and just left it in the infrastructure. That also can be one of the uh, weak points or weak areas where the ransomware can come in. So create visibility, have maybe if it is a oversized virtual machine, undersized virtual machine, if there are some active snapshots, it also helps you to optimize your production infrastructure perspective. Always follow 3 to 1 best practice rules. Yes, definitely have the protections on premise. Utilize hardened Linux repository. Make your backups immutable even on object storages, and have them secured. Now, this is what I am saying, but don't go by my words or don't take it from me. A recent IDC study showed that the Veeam customers see a 5x reduction in the restore times after implementing Veeam solutions. That means you can recover your data faster and have less downtime. So you can also go through this IDC business report. So after this session, maybe these slides will be shared to you. And then talking about coming ahead of the IDC part and talking about the ransomware protection. Just in case if you are hit by a ransomware attack and you find yourself to a bit in a clueless situation, we do have a dedicated Veeam SWAT team for ransomware. So that helps our customers to go ahead and identify the setup, identify the things, and then provide them whatever the required support is there required. So maybe Veeam has people who can take care of it. We have service partners. We have integrated ecosystem with the partners, which together can help you come out of that particular situation. Just go by the best practices. Uh, have your solutions built up accordingly, and there is also something called as ransomware warranty protection. So that is where there is some kind of a warranty also. You can definitely get in touch with our sales team and understand a bit more about what this ransomware warranty protection is all about and how you can build this particular kind of a setup and have protection against the ransomware attack. So as I said, backup is definitely easy. Any vendor in the market can come and say that I'll do the backup, but recovery is a hard process, or recovery is a tough nut to crack. And I would say Veeam is one of the best at it. So when I talk about the recoveries, Veeam backup and replication itself has got 91 plus unique ways in which you can perform the recovery. So these are stats as per the V11, and as we launched V12, we have many more added to it. So talk about instant recovery of at a virtual machine level. So maybe physical server recovering as a virtual machine instantly in less than 5 to 15 minutes, or recovering the database, instantly recovering the database, maybe for example MS SQL or Oracle database, or doing a table level recovery for MS SQL, or doing a granular restoration, file folder level restorations, or restoring it to the cloud, vice versa as we discussed, or even at an application item level. Maybe you have an active directory and there was a ransomware attack. Several users got deleted from the active directory. You do not know what all has got deleted. So you can just utilize Veeam Explorer feature and perform granular restoration, or basically there is an option compare with production, and it will help you out with, you can check with show changed items only, and it will show only the items that have been deleted, which are not there in the production. You can perform the recovery granularly. So that ways, some we have just discussed today, but then there are also options where you can perform direct restorations to the cloud. You can perform bare metal restorations. You can perform instant NAS share level restorations also. So if imagine there is an SMB share you were taking a backup of which got corrupted or was hit by ransomware attack, you can perform instant share level restorations also, which again helps you to bring down your RTO. You can publish your NFS shares as an SMB share. That also is one of the additional V12 restoration approach, which added on to 91 ways. So just as I say, just not one or two ways. It can be different use case scenarios in which you have been hit by a ransomware attack. or any other natural kind of a disaster. So Veeam just makes it easy. Veeam just makes the recovery easy for you with either of the features. Some of the top V12 key feature functionalities. So if you're aware about Veeam, so Veeam has launched its latest product version V12 on 14th February 2023, and there are some amazing enhancements as a part of it. So this is where now you can find your configuration database on Postgres. You can have from an additional security perspective, all the IP6 version products can also be backed up now. We support them all. From an additional security and compliance perspective, we brought GMSA, we brought verbose support, we brought multi-factor authentication that we discussed in the previous slide. Auto log off again, if you logged into your backup server and somehow you forgot to log off from it, you can basically an auto log off helps you to protect and getting your console into some wrong hands. So direct backups to object storages. So imagine you have a remote location where you do not have any landing zone for your backed up data. You can have the backups directly pushed to cloud or directly pushed to object storage. You can have immutability for GFS also. We have improved backed up data file format, which helps you to save space when you're moving from one kind of a repository to another kind of a repository. There were enhancements in the NAS backups where earlier the NAS backups were had a limitation from pushing it out to object storage. Now you can have the backed up data pushed out to object storage. You can have instant recoveries as at SMB share level, publish the NFS shares as SMB shares. You can basically have immutability. You can push out the backed up data to the hardened Linux repository and make the backups immutable. So these are some of the enhancements. Talking about the replication part, Veeam CDP is one of the feature that helps you to bring down your RPO to less than 5 seconds, where you can replicate your virtual machines, maybe VMware virtual machines, to the DR or a secondary locations as low as every 5 seconds. So you can bring down your RPO to approximately 5 seconds. So there might be some critical workloads which you have in your infra. You can definitely utilize the Veeam CDP policy. There were enhancements in the agents, and then direct backups to object storages of the agent-based backup. So maybe a physical server backup or a desktop laptop backup. You can basically have them pushed out to object storages. Bare metal restorations for AIX and Solaris was also introduced. So altogether, if I have to sum up with Veeam, you can have the complete control over the recovery. It might happen that ransomware attack has hit your infrastructure. Maybe it is a physical server on which you are running an MS SQL database. It has not hit the physical server, it has directly targeted the database. You do not need to do a bare metal restoration. You can just go ahead and perform instant database level recovery and help you save your downtime or have a lower RTO by performing an instant database level recovery. Or you can perform instant recoveries as per the different use cases that we discussed. Have a multi-layered immutability. Yes, even if a primary copy got hampered due to some or the other reason, maybe natural calamity, you have a secondary copy which is immutable, and from there you can perform the restorations either to cloud or to on-premise. Have the complete data mobility in place. We do not have any kind of a vendor lock-in if you're aware about Veeam. So this is where Veeam is completely hardware agnostic solution. So if you want to have your backed up data pushed to cloud or to on-premise or any kind of a disk-based storage, we are absolutely fine with it. We do not find you to go ahead with a particular make and model or a particular vendor. Comprehensive monitoring to have greater visibility of the workload and of the backup infrastructure, and automated the DR process, DR testing process. So that is where this particular approach helps you to go ahead and have or more reliable recoveries in place just in case if you are hit by a ransomware attack. Some of the extra resources as we proceed ahead. So all the things that we just discussed can be found or as a part of this white paper, you can just scan and just log in. Or you can also log into your my.veeam.com and try to see, um, find different white papers or topics related to this particular content. And when we talk about my.veeam.com, you can also go to community.veeam.com where you can have civil topics or civil spaces, like for example, as you can see in the screenshot, cybersecurity space, which helps you to go ahead and glance through what are the latest trends, what ways can be used to go ahead and make your backed up data more secure. Or you can also log into Veeam best practice portal where you will find what is the best practices that you can follow to save yourself or have an ultra resilient approach on the backup infrastructure. Uh, Last but not the least, we are coming up with our Veeam on for 2023 from May 22nd to 24th. It is happening in Miami. Please register yourself and attend these amazing 40 plus sessions that we have. And we have talented 50 plus speakers who will be taking up these sessions. And all over the country, people will be joining in for this particular session. And there'll be amazing topics starting from Kubernetes, your software as a service applications, data protection like M365 and your Salesforce, or it can also be the V12 key feature functionalities and their advantages. So there are multiple sessions on the similar uh, topics which you can attend as per your interests. And thank you so much for being so attentive. I'll just log in and see if there are any questions. Okay. Okay, there are questions, and the first question is from DVV Satyanarayana. Can we have any other medium alternatives? Yes, sir. A secondary copy of the backed up data, even if you want to push it out to a disk-based storage or to an object storage, if you do not wish to go ahead with the tapes, you can definitely go ahead with it. As I said, Veeam doesn't bind you to go ahead with a particular approach. It can be D to D to D, D to D to C, or D to D to T as per your requirement to follow the 3 to 1 best practice rule. And we have one more question. Can we take possible if the backup? Can we take the backup of IBM LPAR? So if it matches the prerequisites for Veeam backup for EIX, we have to see the platform. If it matches the platform prerequisites, we can definitely uh, take the backup. If the prerequisites are not met as per the agent requirement of Veeam, then it won't be able to back up. How do we protect the backup while backing up on-premise storage local disk? Okay, this question is from Karthik. So yes, you can protect the backups while you are backing it up to on-premise backup repository. The best approach is to go ahead with the hardened Linux repository, uh, which is on a physical server, which will basically give you an additional layer of security. I have the multi-layered security approach, have the multi-factor authentication enabled on the backup server. So I think this would be the first approach. A secondary copy I would always recommend to go ahead and push it out to cloud and have it immutable even on cloud. If your organization is not ready for the cloud and you are pushing it out to a tape, kindly make sure that it is air gapped. So that way it is secure. Why can we remove the backups which are immutable because few backups are not required? So this question is from PL Shikar. So once the backup file is created and it stays as per the immutability period, it cannot be deleted manually, even by logging to the Linux console, or even if you want to delete it from the Veeam console itself, you won't be able to delete it. If there is some actual reason apart from that, you can just maybe give us a bit more details about this scenario, and maybe we can get it checked once. So that is there. Okay. Next question. What other measures we have to follow? So I think one question we have from Siva. And is Linux immutable repository 100% safe against ransomware? This is just a part of the solution. Yes, but it gives you protection against ransomware. As I said, have at least 2 copies of your backed up data. So maybe again a secondary copy if you want to have it on a hardened Linux repository or to a cloud. Enable object lock. Um, do have secured access to your backup infrastructure from top of it. Okay, so that way I think would be one of the best approach to go ahead with. So if last year we did have a live ransomware attack demo in Bangalore where we tried to delete the backed up data file manually, which we were not able to do. So you can just try it out once in your infrastructure, Shiva, and you can have a look and feel yourself. It is definitely a good solution against ransomware or even malicious insider. If you have a malicious insider in your organization and before leaving the organization he wants to delete everything, he jumps to the Veeam console and tries to delete everything from the disk tab. Because of the immutability cap, they won't be able to delete the data. But there can be different use cases, definitely. But yes, immutable a hardened Linux repository is a good story to begin with. Mhm. Okay. Okay. We have another question. Can we create image backup? This question is from Spacure Labs. Apologies if I have not pronounced your name correctly, but yes, you can create an image level backup from Veeam. That is not a challenge. Next question we have from Bharat. Um, is Veeam a part of VMware? No, sir, Veeam is not a part of VMware. VMware is a part of some different organization. Veeam is a completely independent organization. We do take backup of VMware from the start, but then we are not a part of VMware. Um, Again, same some question from Bharat sir. Does Veeam use SQL? Yes, till V11 version to store our configurations, we used to use SQL. But from V12, we have started using Postgres from a security, additional security perspective from the solutions. Okay. Um, okay. There is a next question from Mr. Konda Suresh. We are using SAP applications and we are maintaining own data center. Then how can I take the backups into cloud? Sir, it is very simple. I'm assuming here you are talking about um, SAP HANA. Even if it is not SAP HANA, if you're talking about SAP running on Oracle database also, yes, we do have a Veeam Enterprise plugins, which helps you to integrate tightly with your HANA Cockpit or a HANA Studio, and it helps you to have the backups to bring it out to a central repository, and from there even a secondary copy if you want to push it out to cloud like any S3 compatible object storage, we will be able to help you with that. So we do have a secured solution that can be stitched based on the requirement. Konda sir. That would be possible. You can take the backups to cloud. Is Veeam an open source? Question from Bharat. No, Veeam is not an open source solution. Uh, I think Narsimha sir has left the chat, but he has written, "Thank you, Pooja, for the wonderful webinar." Thank you so much, sir, for the appreciation. Is Veeam an image level backup? A question from Kunda Suresh. Yes, an image level backup can be taken from the Veeam console. That would be possible. So any additional questions, Devi, that we have in the chat? I have covered everything in the questions panel, but do let me know if I have missed any. Okay, there are questions. There are questions coming in. Okay.
I don't have any questions. I think it is popping up in your screen if you can read it out.
Okay, can we use desktop laptops backup also? Yes, you can back up your desktop laptops also, be it Windows, Linux, or even Mac. You can all back it up using the same console. So Veeam Backup and Replication is the primary product line which helps you to back up your physical servers, virtual machines, desktop laptops, NAS, or even cloud instances. It is all in one, and we have only one type of license to take care of it. What is Veeam unique feature functionality as compared to other vendors or the other competitors in the market? There are multiple key USPs, sir, and we also have vendor to vendor comparison, but some of them standing as a part of being completely hardware agnostic, providing immutability, uh, providing complete flexibility to customers to push out their backed up data, performing agentless backup of the applications, performing granular restorations without any agents, all included in a single type of license. These are some of the key USPs as we talk about from a competitor's comparison perspective. If you are keen about knowing Veeam versus a particular XYZ competitor, we can definitely get on a call and discuss it basis on the use case and the workloads that you're talking about. From a workloads perspective, also we have feature to feature comparison along with the competitors that can be discussed. Can we restore a particular Excel or Word file? Definitely, so you can go ahead and perform a file folder level restorations of an image level backup. That shouldn't be a challenge. Okay. Yes, I think this covered. Hi, Pooja. Thank you for the webinar. Can we install Veeam 12 in Linux along with repository? No, the V12 or the backup server has to be installed on the Windows operating system only, preferably the server edition. The hardened Linux repository definitely is on the repository. So that is the difference, Mr. Venkat. Um, So Mr. Venkat has one more question. Veeam has maybe Veeam app 11 or 12. I'm not so sure if I have understood this question correctly. But so V11 was a part of last year's launch. This year on 14th February, we have launched our V12 version already. It is up and running, and if you're already using the previous version like V10 or V11, you can upgrade it to V12. Okay, will Veeam support long distance replication? If yes, what is the network bandwidth requirement for long distance replication? Veeam does support long distance replication. It is just that the connectivity needs to be done, or the connectivity has to be there between the source and the destination, or the primary and the secondary, or the DC and DR. Bandwidth requirement basically can be shared. We have a tool basis on the amount of data that is there and how much data that needs to be replicated. We come to a value that so and so bandwidth would be required. And for a continuous or CDP feature functionality for the VMware, if you want to utilize while scheduling the CDP policy itself, it kind of you can do a test now and check if the provided bandwidth and the CPU RAM resources for the CDP proxy are sufficiently available or not. So it is there as a part of the proxy itself. Okay, I think we have next question from Ali Sheikh Mohammed. a nice session with V12. GSMA can be used for batch processing, however, it can also be used for Veeam service log on method for each toward regular phosphor rotation effect. Yes, that should be possible. Okay. Uh, Again, we have one more question from Mohammed Mohitun Sudhi. What is the key difference between Veeam backup and replication enterprise and Veeam backup and replication standard when we talk about size and date? So these are the previous versions or the old versions of Veeam software when we had I would say a socket-based licensing. We had standard enterprise and enterprise plus version. Now we have only one type of license, which is Veeam universal license. Or if I have to define, if you're talking about Veeam backup and replication product line itself, we have only one type of license, which is Veeam basic edition, which has Veeam universal license. So that is the only type which has all enterprise plus feature functionalities. Okay, I have covered this question. And then size and data, I think it is just size and data that is being mentioned in one of the question. I'm not so sure. If I assume this question correctly, it can be any size. We do not have any lock-in. It can be even 5 GB that we want to back up, or even 5 TB or even 50 TB. We can back it up. We do not have any limitation, and it can be data which is a part of virtual machine, physical server, or any workload, as we just discussed a few moments back. It can be uh, any kind of data on these particular platforms. Let me just check the chats also. Okay, no questions in the chat. Okay, great then. Thank you so much, team. Thank you for making this interactive. And okay, thank you, Mohammed sir. Thank you for the appreciation. Thank you, Pusila. Uh, thank you so much for attending this session. I hope we could give you some glimpse into the solutions. I hope you have a happy Holi, amazing time ahead, and have a safe day ahead.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your
Bye-bye.
time today. We will be sharing the presentation, and if you have any queries, we will reach out to you, sir. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye, team.